Okay, one more for good measure. I know last time, and I say last time and not last time because last time it was the video yesterday talking about how he actually signed, but last time we had talked about Martin Necas, it was in a video going over how his trade update is no more. It's the final trade update for Martin Necas because at that point we had gotten word that the Carolina Hurricanes would most likely have re-signed him. And guess what? They did. They signed him to a 2-year deal yesterday, and everything was over. The Martin Necas trade saga is over and done with, but following up the news of the signing, we had ourselves Frank Seravalli on the DFO Rundown Show talking about a few ideas as to the trades that could have been made. Take a look at this tweet from H.E. Pennypacker. I'm using this tweet because they pretty much just summarize what it was that Seravalli said on the show. But it turns out the Buffalo Sabres did indeed have a trade in place for Martin Necas, but the problem was Necas would not sign with Buffalo. And there was also another conversation. The Jets, they had offered Rutger McGroarty, Cole Perfetti, and a pick for Martin Necas, but the deal never went through. Seravalli did not note the reason as to why this Jets trade did not happen. Maybe the Jets pulled out, maybe the Jets were getting a little bit worried as to whether or not Necas would sign with them, etc., etc. But this offer, this package, it was on the table, according to what Seravalli said. Now, you can take issue with the existence of this tweet, or the way that it's worded. H.E. Pennypacker responds saying, well, this got a lot of attention. I'm just saying what I heard. Go listen to the show yourself for full context. I'm not some kind of newsbreaker dude, so there's no need to follow me. I probably hate your favorite team and your favorite fan base. And Jets fans really overrate Cole Perfetti, eh? And so with this in mind, I wanted to discuss more so of the Buffalo idea than the Winnipeg one. The Winnipeg one, because Seravalli doesn't really have a reason as to why it didn't go through, I feel like it loses a lot of steam and momentum in regards to us being able to talk about it. But when it comes to that Buffalo Sabres deal, we don't even know the details of it. We just know that there apparently was a trade that Buffalo had in place to get this guy. But because he didn't have a contract, and because he just straight up said, I would not sign with you, Buffalo, sorry, it essentially means that the trade was rejected because of Martin Necas' own input. How heartbreaking must that be for Buffalo Sabres fans? And how interesting enough that Buffalo, honestly, I don't really think Buffalo had any rumblings about being involved in this Martin Necas conversation the entire time. Like, I feel like when it comes to the teams that we had been discussing for Necas, it was always the same. It was Montreal, it was Winnipeg, Vancouver was tossed in there, Calgary was in there, Detroit as well, but no Buffalo. And that isn't really, like, indicative of what the Buffalo Sabres are trying to do here. I think when it comes to Buffalo, everybody was kind of saying, okay, they could add some forwards, they could go after a Patrick Kane or something, they could try to expand on the roster that they already have, they could maybe give some more line mates to Alex Tuch, give JJ Peterka a little bit of a break on the second line, maybe try to move things around there. And it was always an interesting idea to see what names could be tossed around there, but for Martin Necas, I feel like Buffalo and Necas talk with them wasn't really going on at all, up until we learned yesterday that apparently the Sabres did have a trade in place. What must that say as well about how Martin Necas is straight up like, yeah, no, sorry, I don't want to go to your team? I have been seeing some Sabres fans respond to that idea and saying, okay, well, firstly, screw you, but secondly, I respect you for being real with it and not putting the Sabres in such a tough spot where it's like, imagine they actually did make the trade. Imagine Buffalo sent over whatever assets it is that Carolina wanted for Martin Necas, only for Necas to be like, okay, yeah, sorry, I'm not going to sign with you. That trade that you made for me and my rights, you just gave away all that stuff for free, buddy, because I'm not sticking around in your team. Then the Sabres would have to go into overdrive trying to flip Necas again, and then this entire thing would have gone in circles. So who would have known if that's how things would have gone down? I also wanted to respond to an idea that was put up on the Buffalo Sabres subreddit, because this entire thing, Buffalo reportedly had an offer for Martin Necas that may have been accepted, but Necas informed the Sabres he wasn't interested in signing. This was posted onto the R Sabres subreddit. One of the top comments goes out there and says this: General Manager Kevyn Adams is a good GM clawing out of a crap situation. I really hope we make it so he doesn't get canned. I'm not ready to call him a good GM. He was underqualified when he was hired, and the results are still questionable. But he certainly has a chance to earn himself a very long leash if this team makes the playoffs in the backs of the bottom six that he had just built. Of course, this is all responding to the idea of Necas not wanting to stick around and sign in Buffalo. For me, there are three main qualities. 1, draft well. 2, sign the core to good contracts. And 3, don't overpay old UFAs. He nails these three. My biggest concern is the Cousins contract, but it's just a concern, not a complaint. There's nothing he could have done about some of these forwards not coming here like Necas, other than offer them insane money, which would be crippling. I really respect him for not signing crap contracts this offseason, though I think he has a handshake agreement with Terry to not be fired because he saved money off the cap the last few years. He could have absolutely screwed us with Stevenson or DeBrusk on the contracts that they got. Okay, comment about Jake DeBrusk, maybe. That's a fine contract, I think. But either way, it is an interesting idea here when you think about Necas not coming over to Buffalo and Kevyn Adams actually being applauded for that. Saying, hey, Kevyn Adams is not going out there and forcing Necas to sign by saying, okay, you don't want to sign? Here, what if we give you $8 million? What if we give you $9 million? What if we overpay to hell and back to get you on, and then the trade will go through because you'll re-sign here and everything looks peachy clean, right? There is a level of restraint that needs to be demonstrated as the GM of the Buffalo Sabres of all teams, especially when acknowledging that some of these top players just straight up don't want to come to your team. It is kind of damning to hear about that, but at the same time, if this is how things went down, I honestly do understand that Kevyn Adams maybe made a good choice here by not forcing Necas' hand and offering him a ludicrous amount of money to make this trade go through. If this report is true, then Necas doesn't want to come here, and people are still in the comments thinking that Adams can make this work. Do you really want to give up whatever assets it would take to trade for him just so he can start day one thinking about how he's going to leave? All in the hopes that everything somehow clicks, they make the playoffs, and then he changes his mind and extends? Some people on this subreddit are jonesing for a trade so hard they would give up anything just to see some even slightly splashy trade happen. And then some of the other comments are going out there and talking about how this is a very interesting move for the Carolina Hurricanes, signing him to a deal that walks him straight to UFA status in 2026. We had already talked about this and more in yesterday's video. But if you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. How do you feel about Martin Necas essentially rejecting a trade to the Buffalo Sabres? How there was already a deal in place, but if Necas was not willing to sign and actually be committed at all to Buffalo, it's enough incentive for the Sabres to say, okay, sorry, we're not going to make this trade go through. It's just not going to work if you're not going to play for us. What are your thoughts about the Sabres not overextending their boundaries to try to make this work? And what are your thoughts on Kevyn Adams being complacent enough to know when to walk away? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.